social network games, social mapping, and instant messaging, social networking, blogging, dating sites, and all of this is basically what we will look at, and from a very particular perspective, which is not as celebratory as you may find it in the media, or also probably by many of your friends, but really trying to look at it from a critical perspective without trying to kill your fun with it. So we will look at particular examples in the area of education, activism, and art that we will compare and look at issues like privacy, intellectual property, and labor. So I will talk about this in a minute. So we will start with a history of computer-facilitated network sociality, so social life facilitated through computers. And we'll then talk about the preconditions, motivations, and typologies of participation, and then talk about this like Web 2 ideology, what I call this Web 2 ideology. And then we will look into the future of the internet, mobile, social space, net neutrality, and the changed nature of the digital divide. I outline some of the text for you, and maybe important is also that we will not just talk about it, but we will also actually try to sort of immerse you in this. So this is immerse you in this, which is important if you are still sort of indecisive about the course. You should know that my goal would really be for you to really try this out as well, so that we really try out Twitter or really go into Second Life and really make use of these things, and while also talking about them. Okay, so this is sort of like an overview. We start with the history of the social web. This will take us 2 weeks, but don't worry, it will be highly fascinating. And then we will talk about the switch from, there's basically this balance between the corporatization and dying out of the public sphere. I don't know if you have sort of an idea of what I'm talking about. Many of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with this, and maybe others not so much. So this means that it's actually quite hard today for us to meet in public spaces, right? It's very hard to meet face-to-face, except, let's say, in a cafe, or places basically become very transitional, right? It's not as easy as in the past to actually meet and socialize face-to-face. Let's say, people live in suburbia, teens are not allowed to leave the house, because of parental fear, and so then they, take to social networking, and that is exploding, it's basically booming, right? So we know, and I will show this to you in a minute, how social life, how people basically take to the web, right? If you don't believe it, I hope you will believe it after we are through with this class. And the question is basically how this relates, right? So on the one hand, it's really made harder and harder for people to meet in public, face-to-face, and on the other hand, you have this phenomenon that basically millions of people take to the web, right? 180 million people on MySpace alone. So this is all we talk about, and then these people also produce content, right? And if you listen to NPR or really read the paper, you will find a lot of criticism of the stuff that's produced, right? Many professors, I'm sure, will not allow you to use Wikipedia. They say, oh, this is questionable material, it's not really credible. And people will say that blogs are basically teenage, world pain diaries, and thus useless. And so there's a lot of criticism of the quality of this material that's produced, and we will discuss that, right? So is there wisdom that is created through this collective intelligence, through these people working together, or is it basically an ineptitude and, as some people say, stupidity of the crowd, or stupidity of the masses, right? So you will be the judge of that. Then we will talk about what I call the Web 2 ideology. And I will have to explain this later, this is a bit more complex. Then moving in week 7, 8, and 9 to case studies, so we will look at art, education, and activism. and really take just 2 projects and compare them in each week. That's all we're going to do. And so like really zoom in on like 2 of these projects and compare them. Then in week 10 and 11, we will sort of see what we learned from these case studies and look at the preconditions, motivations, and typologies, right, of participation. So with participation, I'm talking about contributing to the web, right, writing blog entries, uploading music, these kind of participatory behavior. And we will look closer at that and then come to an ethics of participation, and that's by no means unproblematic. The term in itself, but then also what's behind it. So you have unethical behavior on the part of users. Let's say students ostracizing their professor, for instance, on Facebook, and then whole networks get